going to cross live now to London, where our Arise senior correspondent, John Cookson, is on standby to give us an update on the Liz Truss' resignation. Thank you for joining us. Please, can you give us what the latest is on Truss's resignation?
Hi guys, good to see you. Well, a political earthquake rocked Westminster earlier today when Liz Truss resigned a couple of hours ago. It was expected in a way because the groundswell of Conservative MP opinion was very much against her. But you know, when it comes, it's still a shock. To change Prime Minister in any event, but to have 3 in 3 years, well, that's quite something. Earlier today, she met with the party leaders in the form of Sir Graham Brady, the leader of the 1922 committee, and basically he told her, look, Liz, it's over, time's up, it's time to go. There's a groundswell of opinion against you, and Liz Truss did the decent thing, if you like. She ended her term in office 45 days with discretion and keeping her respect to herself rather than being dragged kicking and screaming out of number 10. So a turbulent time. Then Sir Graham Brady claims that he can organise a ballot to arrange a new leader of the Conservative Party and therefore a new Prime Minister by October the 28th, which is a Friday, I think, and there are a number of runners and riders in the run-in. We've got Penny Mordaunt, former Defence Secretary, who did very well in Parliament earlier this week, Rishi Sunak, former Chancellor, of course, and Ben Wallace, Defence Secretary, who is seen as a very much a safe pair of hands. And do you know, guys, already the bookmakers in this country are running a sweep, and they've already got the odds sorted out as to who might be the next Prime Minister of the UK. And I'm joined by Sam of the major betting firm Betfair. Sam, hi to you.
Hello again. Here we go again.
You were quick off the mark.
Yeah, well, listen, the punters are absolutely red hot when it comes to the political markets on Betfair Exchange. They were absolutely red hot with our Liz Truss exit date. So it's been really fascinating to see how the betting markets have reacted following the past few weeks. But yeah, here we go again. We've got another Tory leadership election race, and already the market's heating up.
So what are the shortest? Who's got the shortest odds at the moment then?
Yeah, so as things stand, it's looking like a 2-horse race, to be honest with you, at the minute. Rishi Sunak currently around 11 to 10. He's the favourite, but closely followed by Penny Mordaunt at a 9 to 4 shot. So things looking pretty tight between the two of them. However,
there's one big beast that you haven't mentioned yet.
There certainly is. We're on College Green. We know that there's absolute buzz here whenever there's a big political news. There's always a buzz on the exchange markets when there's a huge mover, and we've seen exactly that in the last hour. Boris Johnson has gone from odds of 27 to 1 to 11 to 2 to be the next Tory leader. Could we see him move back into number 10? Going to be an interesting week.
Well, he's been very quiet the last few weeks, and I know he's making a lot of money out of after-dinner speeches, $200,000 a time. So whether he'd want to give that up, I don't know. So, given what you know and your expert opinion, who's way out in front at the moment?
Well, going off what the punters are backing, 50% of the money on the market over on the Betfair Exchange has been for Rishi Sunak. He was quite popular with the punters last time. Until it went down to the membership vote. That's when we saw the punters back Liz Truss. However, like I said, 50% of the money has been on Rishi Sunak over on the Betfair Exchange. Penny Mordaunt closely following him. Boris Johnson's got about 10% of the money on the market, but the momentum is with the former PM at the minute.
Sam, thanks very much indeed for now. Thank you very much indeed. Well, there we are. Rishi Sunak, according to the bookies, is out in front at the moment. But Rishi Sunak has a bit of a problem. I mean, he was also a contender in the leadership race not some months ago now. And he has his supporters, sure, but he's also seen as someone who stabbed Boris Johnson in the back when it came to the leadership contest. So whether those short odds on Rishi Sunak proved to be correct, we'll have to wait and see. So a busy time for the potential leaders in the coming weeks, lobbying Conservative MPs very toughly over the next week or so. And as I say, the ballot for a new leader, a new Prime Minister, due to be conducted on October the 28th. Guys?
Well, John, we understand that Sir Keir Starmer has called for an immediate general election, saying that the Tories no longer have a mandate to govern. Is this a call that is likely to be echoed by so many others? What's likely to come out of that?
Yeah, Keir Starmer has been calling for a general election on a number of occasions in the last few turbulent days of Liz Truss's reign. And in fact, he repeated that at the TUC conference in Brighton earlier today. But look, the point is, it's not within Keir Starmer's gift to call a general election. That's in the hands of the government in power. And the government in power currently has an 80-seat majority holding over from 2019. So it's the new leader's call as to when a new general election is to take place. It doesn't do Keir Starmer any harm calling for a general election. It boosts his popularity. For many people in the country are totally fed up with the Conservatives after 12 years. But in practical terms, I'm not so sure that a general election is imminent. And certainly the Conservatives don't want a general election at this time because all the opinion polls are against them at the moment. And many opinion polls say that if there was a general election tomorrow, there would be a landslide on the scale of Labour's win back in the late 1990s, which brought Tony Blair into power. So, yeah, there's a lot of talk about a general election, but that's in the hands of whoever's running the country in a week from now.
And what is to become of Liz Truss and her political career, especially within the Tory party going forward?
Well, that's a good question. Traditionally, she could go onto the backbenches from whence she came. Although, it is possible that she might have a ministerial post in a future government, but I doubt it. She was a rising star within the Conservative Party and has been a cabinet minister on a number of occasions. She has a family, 2 daughters. Although she's still young, I think, still in her late 40s. So she's clearly got a future now, whether that's in politics, on the backbenches here in the House of Commons behind me, or doing something completely different. We'll have to wait and see. But also, prime ministers go on to become personalities on the so-called rubber chicken circuit, giving after-dinner speeches, as Boris Johnson has already. Liz and Theresa May used to do that. Margaret Thatcher certainly did, and Tony Blair did. So, there's many ways that they can earn some money, and perhaps a biography from Liz Truss. But look, her personality doesn't lend itself to a great deal, I would have thought, of general popularity outside of politics, but maybe I'm being a bit cruel there to her. But certainly, she has a future, but we'll have to wait and see whether that's in politics or not.
Well, so John, what reactions are we getting from the rest of Europe over the resignation of Liz Truss?
I haven't been monitoring progress and reports from, say, Paris or Berlin in the last hour or so I'm not sure. But I think there was a general feeling that Jeremy Hunt, the new Chancellor, was a good choice. He would be popular in Europe, and what the Europeans are looking for is someone who would maybe consider in the future taking the UK back into the European Union, but we're looking months, even years ahead now. So Europe looking for someone who is not as Eurosceptic as perhaps Liz Truss was, and certainly no one from the right side of the party they would like to see in number 10, someone from the centre left perhaps.
And in terms of the betting and polling, we know you spoke to someone earlier, and we did see Boris Johnson's name on the list. But politically speaking, what is the likelihood of him even being considered? Would it not be a case of somewhat going back to old vomit, so to speak?
Yeah, I wouldn't quite put it that way, but you're right. But look, he's a vote winner. He's a good campaigner. He can win elections. He gave the Tories the biggest majority in 40 years. Only back in 2019, he connects with the people. People like him. Not everyone, of course, because he was ousted from office in the end. But, he is a popular man, so we'll have to wait and see if he comes out of the shadows. He's been very, very quiet the last few weeks, so he may put himself forward, but and one thinks also that he is a big fan of Winston Churchill, who spent some time in the political wilderness. Perhaps he sees himself as a new Churchill, cometh the man, cometh the hour, as it were. But I think that Boris Johnson could make an appearance, but look, it's early days yet.
So, John, how easy do you think it will be for Conservative MPs to get, one of their ranks to become the next Prime Minister and unite the party so that they would not have to contest among Conservative Party members? Yeah.
You make a very good point there, and this also calls into the question about the future of the Conservative Party. They are split, rather like the Republicans in the US. There's this sense in the world that politics is changing hugely. The Conservative 200-year-old party, they've been in power in this country for 12 years. Is it time now for a change? Will they be ousted at the next general election, as the opinion polls say? And will they reform? Could new parties grow out of the original Conservative Party, one on the right and centre, and one on the centre and left? All these things are up in the air at the moment, and a sign really of the revolution almost that's going on in British politics at the moment. There's a great sense, certainly here in Westminster, that change is in the air. People are talking about the possibility of a Labour government, although we're discounting that for the time being, or that's my opinion. But certainly for the Conservatives, they've got a lot of thinking to do, a lot of sorting out to do. And some people are saying that we've seen the end of the Conservative Party, the traditional Conservative Party, because the party that we've got at the moment is not traditionally Conservative. The legislation that they managed to pass, very little has been the kind of centre-left democratic policies. There's been no right-wing of the party policies pushed through Parliament during the last 3 years, especially, for example, on immigration. So, as I say, absolute political earthquake going on in British politics at the moment, and such interesting dynamic times.
And we know the economy is one of the sticking points for the UK government right now. And we spoke with Michael Wilson earlier on in the program. But I also want to ask you, with this political turmoil and this uncertainty going forward, do you think this will have an effect on the economy, especially since that recession is hanging over like a dark cloud? Do you think that it would have any impact?
This Truss's resignation won't have a direct impact, and already the markets are settled, having heard Jeremy Hunt's outline of what he plans to do in respect of taxes and reversing all the things that Liz Truss put forward, which actually collapsed the economy and sent the pound into free fall. So the markets are taking care of themselves right now. As far as a Labour government is concerned, look, they're going to have the same problems that Liz Truss had, the cost of living, the frightening cost of living in this country, also interest rates at 10%, the war in Ukraine. So again, this points, for me at least, that a general election isn't imminent at the moment, because I think the Labour Party would like the Tories, the Conservatives, to deal with all these big issues before a general election, so the Labour Party have a clear run, given that they look likely to win the next general election.
We understand that Jeremy Hunt has ruled himself out of the contest, but one person that has not been ruled out is former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. So how do you think the British people would react to having him back in that office? Do you think they would like that?
Jeremy Hunt's ruled himself out because he's not particularly popular. He might be good at his job, but as far as the public is concerned, he doesn't seem to connect with the British people in a major way. And I think he's probably done the sensible thing to rule himself out. And of course, he was a runner in a previous race for the leadership, and he lost fairly early on. A very experienced cabinet minister, former foreign secretary and health secretary, of course, and seen as a safe pair of hands to take the economy forward. As for Boris Johnson, we keep going back to him. We don't know what his intentions are. He's been very, very quiet in the last few weeks, not made any public appearances or made any statements. What will happen in the next 24, 48 hours, we'll have to wait and see. A huge number of people in the UK would like to see him come back, but equally, guys, there are so many people who've had enough of Boris Johnson and his, frankly, philandering ways, and they will not forgive him for what he did during the COVID crisis. And let's not go into all of that now about Partygate and all of that stuff. So Boris Johnson, maybe, but really the ball is in his court to try and show. Let's see if he shows his face in the coming days and weeks.
Well, certainly interesting times and interesting 7+ weeks in the UK. We will continue to follow the story. John Cookson, thank you so much for joining us and joining the conversation this afternoon.